A very good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deepthi. I'm WIDS Delhi Ambassador. I'm holding graduate degree in Information Science and postgraduate in Data Science from WIDS Pilani. I welcome you all in Day 2 event of WIDS Delhi 2023. WIDS Women in Data Science is a global initiative by Stanford University that aims to educate and inspire data scientists worldwide. It also aims to support women working in the area of data science. So, in today's event, you'll get an opportunity to hear our amazing speakers who have been leading the way in data science. And when I say amazing, I really mean it. So, we'll be starting our technical talk now. In addition, we have final round of data challenge. So, we'll be announcing the winners for day 2 of data challenge. So today's speaker, she has joined us. So let me allow her to enter, yeah, in our studio. So please join me in welcoming our esteemed speaker, Dr. Mona Gupta. She is going to share her expertise on communication audit network analysis. Dr. Mona brings more than a decade of experience in academics. She is a doctorate in the area of corporate communications and public relations. She is working as a senior assistant professor with Vivekanand Institute of Professional Studies. She published a book named Corporate Communication Case Studies from India with the reputable international publisher Routledge from Taylor and Francis Group. The book also won the Best Book Award from the Public Relations Society of India. She has published more than 10 research papers and chapters in national and international journals. Her major work includes adoption and adaptation of communication audit in corporate communications, published in an international and UGC approved journal named Glossism. Her other publication, named Understanding the Role of Public Relations in Foreign Policy Formulation Process, published in the Wellesian Journal of Research. Due to her interest in the area of digital media, she wrote a chapter on social media at the workplace as well as on engine marketing for the internal departmental publication. She is a licensed blogger with the Times of India and runs a page by the name of Candid Communicator. On behalf of WITS Delhi, we welcome you all, Dr. Mona. Over to you. Over to you, Dr. Mona. I hope I'm audible.
Thank you so much, Deepthi. It's really a wonderful opportunity to be here. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
I think there's a delay in network. I don't know why. It takes some time to reach out to you. I don't know why is it happening like this. Uh, Now is it fine? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Yeah,
No?
you're audible and you're visible too.
Perfect. Perfect. So wonderful. Thank you so much for such a warm welcome. I think the bio was quite an exclusive one. I don't need any introduction anymore. So today, yes, I'm going to talk about communication audit, and in this, we use one of the methods called network analysis. My entire presentation lies on sociometric questions and how do we use this software for sociometric analysis. So before I move ahead, let me just quickly give you a brief about this. Too many technical things, but how do we analyze data through a software? Plus, how do we visualize that? This is how I would be covering a bit about. So, let me just share my screen first. Okay, is my screen visible? Hello, please tell me,
Yes,
is my
your
screen
screen is
visible?
visible. Yes, we can see that.
Okay, all right. So,
You're not audible. We can't hear you.
there is some. Give me 1 minute. I think there is some problem in the network. Just
Sure,
half a minute.
sure, sure. No problem.
Okay, please tell me if I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Hello. Yeah. And so is my
Yeah,
screen is visible?
yes, screen is also visible.
Okay. So I hope you can see my second screen, or am I still starting with the first screen?
No, it's the second screen I can see.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I'm so sorry for the all the inconvenience. Let me just quickly give you a
No,
brief about what we're going to cover in this session. I'll be quickly talking about what is communication analytics and where does communication fall into communication analytics. Based on that, how do we do a communication audit? How does network analysis work? And for network analysis, the software that we're going to talk about today is UCI Net. And from UCI Net, how do we visualize the data, which is NetDraw? So when I say communication analytics, as the definition says, this is a way where we reveal a certain pattern and trends in communication. When I say communication trends, it sounds a very casual term, but if you look at it from an organizational or from a relationship perspective, there are certain unique relationships that may occur between people. Okay, and how do we share that unique relationship, and how does it affect the working of an organization or a relationship actually defines the analytics process. So you can say it's a scientific reasoning. One cannot say randomly that yes, this person is connected to the other, but the entire process is all about reasoning. And for that, we support the art of communication. So through analytics, we try to understand what is working and what needs improvement, and how do it facilitates the flow of ideas and information within the teams or between company and its customers. So considering the organization as a whole and the kind of people and the network that exists within an organization, they need certain analysis, because we do not understand what is working, what needs an improvement, and how does it work. So for the same, we use a term called communication analytics. So it in from a company's perspective, it assesses to help their communication channels, whether one channel is working or not. For example, if you're using email and you do not understand that maybe that most of the people are not even reading the emails, or whether the email is the right channel for what kind of information. So that may come down to effectiveness. What is more effective for what kind of information? What are the pain points, that whether people would like to receive information orally or they would always like to have it in written information, and how the targeted audience are receiving the information, how do they react and interact with the company. So receiving end also, with analytics, we also understand that how much information are we receiving, how we supposed to receive, and where there's an information overload, and what kind of reactions people are giving while they interact with the company. So that again studies the informal and formal networks both. So in this case, we would be studying first what is communication audit, how does the method work, the analysis, and the conclusion. So when I say communication audit, you can say analytics is a broader term, or from this we have used a term called audit, where we systematically evaluates all the content that we have in hand. That depends on the problem that the company is facing, or you have realized that there are certain areas which are not working properly, and the issue is more related to communication. Even if there are certain issues, we see it as a superficial level, but most of the time it is the communication error that has been seen. So how do we know that there is certain error or not? And for the same, we conduct this thing called communication audit. As George Bernard once said, the single biggest problem in the communication is the illusion that it has taken place. So sometimes we feel that we are communicating, but we don't understand whether the other person is receiving it or not, whether he has understood it or not. So, in a way, communication audit is like every other financial audit, where you systematically analyzes the financial statements in a similar fashion. Here also we need professionalism. We always use a reasoning and a scientific method, a certain code where we always do not share the information. We have to stick to a third party professional thought process. Then we diagnosis the content is there, where we systematically analyze the content, we evaluate the result out of it. We always have a unique design. Network analysis is also a unique design that we create for it. Timeliness is a very important factor. Often the communication gets distorted if gets delayed, or the result may not deliver the right kind of analysis if we do not give it on time. And yes, it has to be done under controlled environment. So when do we use communication audit? When you're diagnosing the current communication practices. Whatever I've implemented, say for example, I have just installed a software where all the employees have to punch in and enter the organization. Now, the point is that whether how many of them are punching, that of course you can get it through a data, but are they really happy with the concept? Because my work environment may not insist on having a punching system, because I may have been a habit of working flexible working hours. So for me, will that current communication tool is applicable or not? So again, I need to understand the needs and the other level of the people, and what is required and what is not required. So if I've implemented or if I've introduced some new tool, maybe I need to diagnose the practice, that whether people accept it, maybe at the initial stage or maybe after when I've implemented, also during, it's a continuous process. Or you can also evaluate overall contribution of communication, where you try to see that whatever we have happening in the organization at the end of the financial year, maybe in 3 months or so, you feel like, yes, we need to see how well my organization is doing. Generally, the large organizations, big organizations, to engage in a lot of communication analysis. They hire agencies to do that at every level, leadership level. One is you have a 360-degree feedback, but this is like a continuous process where you see which areas need improvement. The other is to identify strength and weaknesses of the communication process, where you try to understand कि जो भी हमने process use किया है उसके क्या strength है, उसके क्या weaknesses है. That's how you can do it. So before we move ahead, let's just find out what kind of communication problems that we have it in our organization. I mean, I know each one of you have been coming across a lot of communication problem. Is it possible to post picture in this case, or sorry, you can post comment in this case that what kind of problem that you are facing in your organization? I've just pointed out a few to give you a clue. Like I find it difficult to interact with my boss. Okay, he or she has been very rigid, or I often find them very rude to talk to, or they are not flexible to ideas. I do not have many friends in the office, so I don't see any network in the office, or I often get sidelined. So, is it possible for you to share that you see the organization has my organization, or I have certain problems with my organization? Is it possible to post here? Can they share it here, Deepti? No?
Yes,
All right, you can
yes.
keep posting in case if you have any. Okay, so think of a problem. I'm sure each one of us have any. So in that case, you can just keep posting it. We can take up that later, or that will give us a sense of involvement with the with the presentation that we have it right now. So I assume that each one of you might have been thinking in the might have already thought about the problem, but would not like to share it here. But that's perfectly fine. So that is where, if you have a problem in your mind, or you see that yes, this is what is happening with my network or with my organization, that means we need a communication audit, or the organization now has to work on a communication audit. So even if you have a single thought of a mind, thought in your mind that these are the problems that I've been facing often, or maybe I'm not able to get the right kind of literature in my organization. My organization never asks me what I want. Whatever they are providing, I never need that. So these are the problems, and that can only be worked upon when you start finding these problems and then seeing a solution later on. So you can say that it provides a clear picture of communication climate, what kind of environment that an organization has been providing. And we all know that in an environment helps in developing a person and so the organization. So it may help you identify and reward good practices, symptoms of discontent that can be an early system warning. And that is the reason most of the people have been leaving jobs when they're not satisfied. And often people have been joining the companies who may not be offering you a good package but a good environment. And it also increasingly study language, meaning, power relationships, voice and genders, and sometimes even critically. So what my boss, the kind of language that my boss uses, is it worth using it in that environment? Keywords are very important. What every meaning is important. We often say in academia that whenever we interact with these students, we should never use sarcasms, because sarcasms often turn down a student and he would never like to approach you. And the power relationship, who always feels the boss. And if we apply those power relationships, definitely a communication gap is there. The voice, there are certain people who always have a louder voice. They never realize it that they probably do not let the conversation happen. Even gender discrimination, we often see women, men, how we often analyze them and do we see them in a different light. So the entire concept lies around internal audience. We have two kinds of audience, internal and external, from an organizational point of view. When I say internal, the people who are working in the organization can be termed as internal audience, who have been helping an organization in their production process or in their working. External could be customers, could be suppliers, could be investors, with whom an organization always communicates. Seeing it from a marketing perspective, customer is something that we always go for mapping, but we never think about our own employees. But now many companies are working on this. So whenever you try to focus on the employees, you try to understand that what has been affecting their quality. Why my certain employee has been working very well and now it has not been. There's a study which came regarding the people who the moment they grow old enough in the company, they tend to deliver less. Okay, that's just a study. That's not my thought process. And the analysis which was like, because we had not been giving them the jobs which is relevant to their experience. How do we know that? If we analyze that what kind of work and the quality that they have been looking for. So experience is always required at a certain point after a certain age. So age, experience, these are the two variables also affect the quality of the communication. The other important is that we always need to see whether we are facilitating, we need to facilitate more than top down communication. Again, one is top down communication, another is bottom up communication. Top down is what flows down from the leaders, from up to down. But in this case, we also need to open channels where employee has been communicating up in the forms of experience, in the forms of ideas, grievances, suggestions. Are we facilitating our employees for suggestions? I'll give you a very small example. Let me know if I'm deviating from the subject wherever you feel like. Just put up a quick comment over there. Most of the PSUs, even emphasis, what they have done when they made a vision mission statement, they hadn't asked just a communication manager to create a vision mission statement. Rather, they asked the employees to see what do they feel their company has a vision mission statement. So that is where the employee feel a part of the organization. Rather than we just keep on saying that you are my family, you actually have to make them feel their family. So it is just a small communication. They haven't taken much from the employee's vision though, but they at least have a sense of involvement from the employees. So that is what we can say bottom up approach. So for all these things, as I mentioned, we used to take audit techniques. And when I use the word audit, we not just take quantitative, we also take qualitative. So I'm not going to talk about qualitative techniques here today. Of course, all about quantitative to analyze it. And when you analyze it, we try to understand part one, which is what is my job to how are we doing. I'm not focusing on my, but I'm focusing on my entire network. How am I doing? How do we fit into the whole? Kaise I'm also being a part of the entire system. And does anybody give a damn? Instead of that, you can say, how can I help? So it is all about what is in it for me and what is in it for use. That always gives a sense of involvement to the employees. Now, we do have various methods to do communication audit, where the most common ones are like communication satisfaction questionnaire. We have critical incident techniques. In this case, we have a questionnaire, we give it to the employees, where there are certain variables. Often there are 8 variables that we work upon, and then they talk about that, are they happy with the system, are they happy with the communication medium, are they happy with their leaders, what kind of information that they would they're often be looking for, and the feedback analysis, and many more. But in network, we try to focus on purely on relationships between their employees rather than their personal experiences or judgments. That how the employees have been dealing with each other, what kind of relationships that I have it with each one of them. I'll talk about it later. So, in a way, it evaluates the functioning of the formal and informal networks. Yes, you can say it's not about personal judgments, but we often analyze it with respect to informal networks. Say, for example, I may close to someone uh, wherein I feel more compatible, because we also talk about other informal communications when I be with that person. Okay, what if these two people have been set up in one team? So will they able to deliver the same way? At one point, one say yes, they will be able to deliver because they gel well and they can function well. Even they can work after office hours if it is required. But the other thought process may say ki if they be joined together, there will be more gossips than work. So this is what you have to evaluate, that what works better and what doesn't work better. It can also shed a light on the organization as a whole, that is on specific relationships or on the position of individual employees, subgroups, or department. Through this network, if we try to study 2 3 different departments, we see who is being connected to different department. When we say interdepartmental communication, or we also use a term called horizontal communication, where different departments, where the people at the same level, how are they connected to each other and in what way? Say, for example, you have four different teams who have four different bosses, but three teams work together. The fourth team doesn't work with the other three teams because the boss doesn't want them to, or the boss is too rigid, or the boss feels that he is superior than the others. So when you do this network analysis, or when we collect data through this network analysis, we see who is the missing link, who's an isolate, who is the one who's been leading the group, who can connect better. And this is how the bosses or the bosses bosses can recognize who are the right person who can connect between teams. It also focuses on uncovering communication patterns where uh, where the communication lines are present and which are not. There are certain cases where I may think that these are the people with whom I interact. They are my friends. Okay, if I give you an option that who all are your friends, and you take all of them as your friend, but when it comes to they giving you an option, none of them chooses you. So this is where the gap comes in. I feel the others are my friend, but they don't see me as a friend. Maybe I do. I have a very poor behavior, or maybe I may have always been seeking help but never giving any. So at certain point of time, the communication lines breaks. So this is where the HR or the bosses have to intervene and reach out to that person, that why, what is the problem, and why people do not want to be with him or her. So this is also the lines that we detect through this. So there are three types of network that we could see in an organization. One is a strategic network, where there's just pure information exchange, relationships regarding organizational policy and decision making. So when you have a clear, a straightforward relationship, but not a personal relationship, maybe between your top boss and you, or maybe from the other team where you need to approach them for certain work. Then operational network, which is about day-to-day work routine, where we have to work together because we are a part of a team. So each one of us has to work with each other because of our daily work routine. Then personal network is, yes, I'm friendly with that person. I love to interact with that person. Lunch, I would prefer to do lunch with that person. That's all about friendships, and maybe after office hours, we prefer to meet with each other because that also defines my personal network. So with this, we try to have different kinds of measures. The first measure that describe the relationship between actors in a network, for example, when I say actors, who all are the people? We use different terms for them. It could be nodes, okay, and the communication between them can be called as edges. So these nodes, these actors, we try to see what kind of relationship they have with each other. So in this case, the frequency of contact between network members. How many times I reach out to the other person? Once in a week, or once twice a day, or thrice in a week. Maybe with, if I talk about the head of the company, for example, or maybe once in a month or twice in a year. That is also a feedback. When you end up meeting a person just twice in a year, it means we need to meet often. So we give a feedback to the top heads that you have to have an interaction or some face to face meetings with your team, which is required maybe once in 3 months. The strength of a relationship, whether the example that I just gave, I feel the other is my friend but the other may not. Or it also defines the density, I'll come to the word later, where how strong the relationship is. So we use a little liquid scale in this case. Do we see it on the scale of 0 to 5, and we accordingly mark them as under a scale of 0 to 5. It's multiplexity. That means the extent to which actors have more than just one type of relationship with each other. In this case, you have defined that I also have a strategic relationship with the other person, as well as a personal relationship with the other person. So again, I may be friends with that, but again, we share a strategic relationship. Then the symmetry of a relationship, the extent to which both actors acknowledge the relationship. So in a way, it measures the strong influence relationship between employees. The other measure is about in degree and out degree. Okay. When I say in degree, number of times a participant was chosen as a contact. In this case, you see how many times that people have selected me. Okay. So in this case, when we make a chart, you will see there are in degree and there are out degree, that the number of contacts a participant indicated. So you would see on the x-axis, you would see that people have chosen who they would like to interact with. Okay, that will be, they choose it on the x-axis and the people on the y-axis. I'll show you that chart later. Then out degree is that how many times you have been chosen by the other as a contact. Okay, so again, going back to the same example where someone has mentioned about you, that this is my friend, this is not my friend, this is my friend, this is not my friend. So this is my friend mein aapka naam hai upar, and you have seen that how people have chosen me, how many of them are actually my friends in that roster. So I'll show you that matrix after that. Besides that, we have three more comprehensive measures, which is degree centrality. That is the number of colleagues they have a network relationship with. So in this case, you indicate that who all have a central position in a network, around whom most of the communication revolves. So you actually recognize the central point of contacts where most of the people prefer to connect. That also helps an organization to choose the new boss or maybe a new supervisor, where you see that people feel more connected to that individual through degree centrality. Other is closeness centrality, where the total distance in terms of links to all other colleagues, that how close you are. So again, the moment you chose, say for example, I meet somebody 4 times a day, and the other person also says 3 times a day, so you could see that these two networks are close to each other because they have been meeting quite often in a day, or maybe thrice or 4 times a week. Again, that defines how many times they are meeting. So maybe strategically they are also connected. Betweenness, another term we use, is something which is connected with two different groups. That is the number of times an employee has an intermediary position between two colleagues or groups in the network. So again, two different groups and who is a linking pin. That is what betweenness talks about. So they have given a different term. Different paper has different terms. We call somebody as star, who is a central position or can be seen as an opinion leader. People often follow his or her opinion. So with teams, with unions, you can always see who is a star. One you can recognize, one you can check through network. If you actually have to have a data with the reasoning. The liaison is somebody who has betweenness in a way, who can connect, who's not maybe a member, but links to two or more otherwise unlinked groups. Bridge is somebody who links two groups but also is a member of both groups. In liaison, you may not be a part of that group, but you link two different people. So you could be an outsider where you can have data related to not to that member group, but somebody from an outside who may connect to that you. Say, for example, you have the boss from the other team or some communication manager who has been trying to do that. In gatekeeping, it is somebody who restricts the information, what would go in and what would not go inside the network. So that is a gatekeeper. In an isolate, you have an employee with few, if any, links to colleagues. They feel detached from the organization, the one who doesn't have many links or doesn't have many networks, right? So the third type measures the characteristics of the entire communication network. In this case, you try to see how inclusive, the extent to which all employees have relations, the density, the number of contacts within an organization, how many contacts that organization has, then, or the centralization, to the extent to which only a few employees are responsible for communication within the organization. It means the others are not communicating. When you see that in terms of strategic coordinate, operational and personal relationship, you see most of the relationships are either personal or people do not interact on strategic basis. So maybe that individual on whom you are collecting the data may not have been giving you a chance to interact or have not been taking decisions or suggestions from you. So it's been clear through that. Okay, I'll show you that data, Abhi. So for the same, we actually do sociometric questions. Network analysis can be done through various ways. One could be an observation method. You go and part of the like the way we have ethnographic studies. In a similar fashion, we can be a part of a group, generally as an outsider, and can just see how does that work, how people interact, what do they do during lunch hours, how do they often spend time when they work, how do they work, how many of them speak and how many don't. So generally we do it with students. When we actually have an interaction in a class, we could see who all are interacting and who all don't. So it's easier for us to recognize that what is missing between the group. The other method could be simply you try to have archival analysis where you check the analysis through emails. What kind of communication which is happening through emails, the data. Say, for example, you have a boss who often has a habit of, always adding a negative statement at the end of every email. This work should be done on an urgent basis, otherwise, you know the consequences. That's the tone, that's the language, which again, the employees anyways have to work, but we do not need to add a warning sign always at the end of an email. Maybe that may switch off a lot of employees. So you actually have to study the data which has already been communicated, or maybe some phone call, or maybe some emails, or maybe some WhatsApp messages, only after the permission. You cannot have a privacy breach over here on a personal, if you look at the phone communication. So all has to be studied to see the tone, the language, all things have been done. But in this case, you only study the communication part, that how much email have been sent, how many people have received. Like we have another technique called small world technique, which has been done with a very small network. We try to understand that how people have been, receiving the communication and what are their reactions likewise. But sociometric questions is more prominently used when it comes to network analysis. And in this case, we generally ask the questions like, during a typical work day, I usually communicate, I mean, we ask for the reactions. I usually communicate about work related matters with the following people through the following channels. So we give them a roster and roster of the people, and then we ask them with whom they communicate work related matters, with whom they communicate, and how do they communicate. So you have an information on the matter, which we give them a code. They can give it a variable, but we can give them a code. What matters do they discuss, and what channels do they use? Okay, I go oral face to face communication, or I prefer a WhatsApp, or I prefer an email. Okay, so that way you will define which channel is strong, or what works in an organization when you see most of the people have chosen a same channel. So in this way, the respondents may end up seeing and analyzing an ego-centered network. Ego-centered is another term that we use, that around whom a relationship works. Or we can also have questions like, with whom do you talk about problems that you encounter in your daily work? So that sounds like an agony aunt, but that's how you also see that who's the right person that people often approach. So maybe that's a problem solver that person is. Or with whom do you discuss the progress you make in your work, and so forth. So who can be a mentor? Most of the time, like in my organization, we have this process of assigning mentors, maybe to the students. Sometimes we also have groups where teachers also have a mentor, where you think that this particular person is specialized in this field, so that person has been given a mentor. So this helps in small problems within the organization. This helps them to solve the problems within an organization, and mentor is the one who supervises that. So again, that can only be done if you start recognizing those links. So, what are the other types of relationship that we could see? Friendship relationships, advice relationships, relationships for material aid. For example, I may give you books within this organization, or I'm the one who can provide you certain study material, or maybe some movies, or maybe some things that may, makes our relationship more related to information and assisting me to grow. And could be other relationship like trust, social support, influencing relationship. All depends on the organizational relationship. Now, the most important part is about data structures, that how do we have data structure when it comes to network analysis. So in this case, we have one major type of data structure is actor by actor, where you could see the ones who are on the left side also could see on the uh, topmost on the row. One is in the column, and the columns are also on the uh, row. So in a way, we share a relationship between each other, and we also call it as two-dimensional or square, where the rows and columns are equal. I mean, the names are equal, or we can just say the nodes are same. This is how it looks. This is the data between teachers, supervisors, senior managers, janitors. And you could see that teacher one, of course, teacher one cannot mention a relationship with teacher one, so it's zero. Teacher one with teacher two says that it also doesn't have a relationship with them, zero. Maybe we have only talked about personal relationships here. And then TCH has a personal relationship with TCH4, teacher four. So TCH has mentioned with TCH. So this is symmetrical data where each one has given. Generally for UCI net, that will come later, we use such kind of network. We often use symmetrical network to see how relationship work between people when it's one node structure. Okay, so you could see that rows and columns are symmetrical in this case, and each one of them have given a detail about who has been in touch with the other person. But we also have a rectangular data, which we call it as a conventional statistical work. Just may we also have various other statistical tools, and we try to symmetric. We create a symmetrical data out of it using some other descriptive technologies, descriptive methodologies. In this case, we have rows being represented by actors, by column represented by attributes of each actor. For example, gender, age. In research term, we call them as variables. So in each record attributes, we try to find out the betweenness or centrality. We can have standard deviation, centrality, how much each network is connected to each other. This is how your network data looks like. In this case, you have people on one side and you have age and sex, which party do they belong to, state, then what kind of numbers they have, what kind of services or professions they would like to go ahead with, or they are engaged in, and accordingly we have chosen and this data. So you could see multiple variables in this case. So we can also convert this into two node data, but we often convert this two node also into one symmetrical data. We'll do that on a hands on, but that is how you also have data, and we convert this data for UCI net uh, according to the UCI net data set. So that's another data set, and most of the time we have such data sets. As I mentioned earlier, that how experiences matter a network can also be counted through a network analysis. So for the same, we're going to talk about this package called UCI net, which is again used for sociometric survey data. And this has a number of metrics where you try to understand the network, the whole network, and the positions of nodes within the network. So when we use net draw, we could see actually the drawings of all the networks at the same time. It uses a special data set. It is not something that you can casually use any data set. It has to be converted into a special format, Pascal language, but it can be created and manipulated using other sets. We can use other software, other sheets, and can be converted into a UCINet database. Again, when you use UCINet, we again see that in hands-on. It converts the file into two different types. One is hash hash h, which is a header information. You can use either of the data set. They still have a same purpose to do it, but that by default converts the file into two different two different heads. One is a header information, and the other is a data line information, which is hash hash d. So it is always best to create either with an internal spreadsheet editor. I'll show you both how internal spreadsheet editor works, or DL language tools, or even you can import your Excel sheet into this. The only benefit of using a Excel sheet or creating an Excel sheet first, because in this UCI net, often the spreadsheets that you create, they get lost. I mean, they do not have a saving option of having a raw file, but it only saves the file within their hash hash h or hash hash d, that is in Pascal format. So spreadsheet editor, how does it work? I'll just show you the command and I'll tell you how does it work. So in this case, the spreadsheet editor is there. Another option is importing and exporting. One is you use their inbuilt spreadsheet editor where you cut and post data and then try to analyze that data. Other option is you import an Excel file, or you can also convert your UCI net data into an Excel file also, that can be moved from the other programs. So the first and foremost thing is that UCINet is easy to download. It's a free software. You have 64 or 32-bit. You can use either of them. Then you need to click on data, import Excel. I'll show you that. Okay, that's just a simple screen that I've mentioned so that you could follow certain guidelines. How does it work? Okay, so I have to just show you how does it work. Let me just change my screen in this case. Okay. Okay, I hope My screen is visible. Just let me know in case if you're unable to see the Excel sheet.
No,
Is
it's
UCI
not
net?
visible.
No, nothing is visible.
No.
Okay, let me just share my screen then. Full screen, entire screen, share screen, entire screen. Right. Now tell me, is it UCI net for Windows? Is it visible?
No, I think you'll have to share it again because since you have stopped sharing, so please share your screen once again.
Okay.
It seems some network glitch. Probably she'll join back in a minute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. No problem.
Okay. Just let me know I'm sharing my entire screen if it is visible or not.
Okay.
Now let me know, is UCI net for Windows visible? There's a small window.
Yes, it's
Okay,
visible.
wonderful. Okay, now this is the software that I've downloaded. As I mentioned, it's free of cost. You can easily download it by clicking on UCI net 6 for Windows and it opens up. Now, in this case, there are a lot of options like you have one spreadsheet editor where I already have a data. Let me just clear this data first. Okay. And the other option is you click on data and one is import Excel. So first we'll begin with the import Excel. And in this case, you click on matrices and it will ask you which file you would like to import. So when I click on three dots here, I reach to my data set, which all have an Excel sheet. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So I'll use a simple square. I have made two sheets. One is with a huge data and another with a small data. So in this case, I've used this sheet and converted into this UCI data set. It will take a little while and you could also see the output major data set. When you click on OK, my system is running slow. Yeah, you could even see that the same name that I've used for my file, it also comes on the output data. And this is how your Excel sheet will look like. Suppose if you have an attribute data, you can even copy paste it and you can make your own Excel file through this. So we can close this down. Uh, and the file will be created. Now, we need to go to, we just remember your file name. It was it was final square, and you would see the file name would be #d or #h. Then click on UC. This is NetDraw. NetDraw is something which will visualize the data, that whatever the data is that you would like to show it. I'll also first show you the data so that you'll have a slight idea how does it look. It's taking a little while. Okay. Okay, this was the data which we converted into a UCINet file. So when I imported the file from here, it actually converted into the language that we discussed in our theoretical part. So let's just click it on either here for a net draw, or you can even click it here for a quick or net draw, right? Or even for this also, quick display information. Either of the tab would work. So just click on net draw. There's another window that will open named as net draw. Now here click on File, Open, UCI Dataset, Network. Again click on three dots. And these are the number of files that I had worked, and right now also we created a file called Final Square. So as I mentioned, one is the data line and one is the header information. You can click either of them, everything would work. So I'm clicking on header, open, click OK. Switch it. So this is how your network would look like if you have multiple network. And if you want to see for a single network, you can even change the color if you want to, or if you just want to see that how these board managers are working, you can just only unclick the other names in this case, and you see that people will not be around. So similarly, you can see how different networks work and around whom the entire communication revolves. So you can take them down further to see how many network does this network have. Okay, we call them as nodes, okay, or isolates. We also have properties here. You can click on nodes. You can have different colors and that you want according to the attribute. Here we just have single IDs. So again, different IDs can be given a different name, colors also. And click yes. So you could see that even the IDs have got different colors. If you want to recognize and show it here, and if you want to use it as a JPEG file, click on File, Save Data as VNA image, or save diagram as JPEG also, or PNG file. That's how it works. Okay. The other part is that we can also click on the data. I'll show you a small data set here. We close down this data. In this case, you can simply select the data, copy it, click on UCINet, click on a spreadsheet editor. Uh-oh. I think my system is very slow. Sorry, you need to bear with me. One more minute. Yeah, click on this here, paste your data, or either you can do it like this or directly paste your data. Oh, sorry. I don't know why is it not working. have no idea. Okay, I'll just tell you how does it work. I don't know why it is not opening, but the best way is to import the file. Otherwise, also, if you have a direct data that you would like to work over here, you can click it here, save it like this. You can click on BL editor, save the files. Again, this will give you an option to save as, or you haven't selected the data type. Okay, we would select the data type. In case you can sum up, ignore this columns and headers, spreadsheet headers and all. You can select the data type and then click on save this Excel file or save UCI data net. So in this case, save. Oh, okay. So we could save it like matrix, and accordingly we can save the data. So again, we can call it as sheet 2 sample and save. So by default, the file would be saved in. This is the another Word file that you could see, and the file will be saved in #d or #h. And then further, we can again click on visualize file, open, dataset, network, and three dots. We saved it with the name sheet sample. Again, this time we use the D file and okay. This is how it will look. So you will see that this has very little relationship. So you can easily make out that it only connects with these two people. So that could be a sort of an isolate that we need to work upon. And again, SS2, a lot of networks roam around this person. So again, this is the key member with whom the opinion may pass through multiple people. So you can easily draw conclusions through this. And as I mentioned, you can always change the even not just the nodes, but even the line colors also based on the attributes that they have. Since we have very general tie strength, or we can just sheet sample, we have just one type, and you can accordingly, sorry, you can choose color. This is how you can even choose the strength color, and different individual, again you can see through this. That was about single node. Let me also tell you how two nodes work. Again, let me first show you the data type. I have it for two nodes. Okay. When I say two nodes, maybe we have asked that with particular leader, do you share a strategic relationship, a coordinated relationship, or a personal relationship? We talked about the three kinds of relationship, and the people mentioned, yes, with this person, I share zero coordinated relationship. Someone says yes, strategic and personal. So we have collected data, or maybe it could be instead of coordinated, strategic and personal, we can have leader one, leader two, leader three, and they can accordingly tell that yes, I do share a healthy relationship with this. So we can have similar set of questions. Accordingly, we can collect data in 0 and 1. Okay, I'll tell you how this two node first can be shown on the visualization network, plus how this two node can be converted into a one node. So I'll show you two things over here. Again, data, import, import Excel. I find this as the easiest way to do it then, because spreadsheet editor often, there are certain bugs in the system I often see. So we need to select our file, desktop, WiDS, and we have this two node data. Okay, open. So by default, two node has come here. So it's all set for the data. It's done. So this is how it will look, right? So remember the name, it will be this two nodes with a D or a H file. Click on NetDraw, file, open, dataset. Now this time we'll select two mode network, and you will see two nodes with a D. Open, click OK. You could see that coordinated, straight, and personal relationship. In this case, again, you can go to properties, you can click on nodes. Before that, you need to transfer, you want to have different node with a different color. So you can click on node attribute data. You could see all the nodes have been there. You want this coordinated relationship should be given 1, strategic should be given 2, and personal should be given as 0. So it's easier for us to color it later. So we would click on update, close this window. Now go to properties, click on nodes, symbols, click on color, attribute based. Now, when you click on attribute base, you will see more modes because it generally takes the numeric data. So now with personal, we have chosen 0. So you thought let's give it a blue color. With 1, that is the coordinated relationship, you thought it should be given a pink color. And similarly, you can even choose the line color also. So that way it's quite visible. Apply this and click on OK. That's how you can have 3 relationship around them. So you can see how many people have relationship, personal relationship with one individual, and how many of them have strategic relationship. This is how it looks. Even you can do a layout, different layout also if you want to. You can create a circular. You do not have to do anything over here. Just click on apply and done. So you can have circular relationship who's under where do they fall in that line. So you could see TCS 7 has no relationship here. So this is somebody for whom who can be seen as a bottleneck of the organization, and it has to be worked upon. So this is how the communication professionals find out also if they want to visualize a network. uh, the other thing I want to tell you about how the 2 node can be converted into a 1 node. Okay, so in this case I've taken another data called attribute data. Generally we have such stats over here. We'll just close down the other window. Say for example, I have taken data from these many people and this is their age group, and this is some state that they belong to. So for example, one belongs to Delhi, another to Mumbai, and I've given them a random number with a code sheet where I've mentioned Mumbai will be given 45, Delhi will be given 19, and likewise I've seen through their coordinates and mentioned the day. Mentioned my code sheet according to my analysis. My own whole purpose is to find out who all belong to Delhi, who all belong to Mumbai. Okay, so first we'll find the state data here. Now in this case, first we'll import the file. Matrices. Okay, this is how our file will look like, attribute data. Or you can even copy paste straight away that file. Okay, then in that case, what is to be done next is we click on this again data. Click on data. Sorry, you have convert from attribute to matrix. Now you need to select variables, but before that we need to select a file. The file name was attribute. Open. So first we'll start with the state. You could see right now we're looking for the exact matches, whatever the term that we have used, and just click on OK. This is how your data would look like. Now you can save that file as an attribute state file, or it will automatically be saved. Now when you use this file in NetDraw, it will show you a symmetrical data and create a matrix out of it or a network out of it. Now let's work on the age one. Again, attribute to matrix, and this time we'll choose age. Now, in this age, we cannot go for difference, but we go for absolute difference because we cannot say plus and minus. It should be one is 5 years younger or 5 years elder. So there is no case of plus and minus here. So we would select this and click OK. So this is how you would get the difference. So A and B, there's a difference of 26 years. You can easily calculate the difference if you want to. But when there's a huge data, it is very difficult to calculate. So this is how even your age data can be converted into a simple matrix. Okay. So There are many such ways you can calculate the data. I can share the links if there's anything that you would like to talk about. That's it from my side. I hope I was quite clear, or it was quite visible that how does it work.
Yeah. So we have few questions.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So the question is right there on the screen. Question is from Tanushree. Employee Appreciation Week or Day is conducted as a bonding exercise between employers and employees, which is quite new concept. And to promote companies identify identity, they post it on their page as well. Okay.
I don't see it as a question, but I see more it on a side at how do these things work. So yes,
Yeah.
we can see from the point that whatever the content that they are receiving, it's not always that when you have an appreciation post, there are others who might feel that why we are also doing the same job. So appreciation posts can also be analyzed in a way when you study the network or the content that have been there. So in this case, we can have questions related to that: how often you've been get appreciated in what all platforms. So who all often have seen you motivating you the most. So again, there is one side and the channels that they often use to interact with you. So again, you get two kinds of data, and you analyze it that what all channels have been used by the employees to motivate some others. So that can be a graph which can be drawn out of it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I
after
can
that
continue.
point, we have one question. In the real office environment, how do we collect the data? Do you use survey to collect it? Explicit or implicit method works? How do you
That's a
deal
good
with
question.
biased relation if a group lies about relations?
Yes, I've read that. Wonderful question. I forgot to mention, or even I mentioned right in the beginning, that there are other methods also. Whatever the research papers have been written on network analysis, they too claim that. First, let me answer your first question. We collect data again either through surveys. We give them a simple Google form also, where we can use a Likert scale, or we can use the cross relational scales, where the employee has been given an option to choose between them. So there is an option in Google form also. Another method is that we can give them a roster, and we would ask them to mark. We can give them certain blocks in front of the names of those individuals, and they can mark which all they have relationship with, and what kind of relationship they have with them, and we can accordingly calculate it and use it on a net draw or UCI net. Regarding the biasness, it is always recommended to use other tools along with this, especially when you are a part of that network and you are conducting a research. Like the way I have conducted a research, I was a part of that network. So I had to reconfirm it by using other tools along with it. Say, for example, with network analysis, I have also used communication satisfaction questionnaire. And there's another method called critical incident technique. With critical incident techniques, I've pointed out certain cases where the employee felt neglected, or I've just try to poke them to come down to as many events as they can recall, where subject to my topic, where they felt that the communication was poor, or they expected certain from something from the organization. So these things justify when you have a network in hand. So that is how you can deal with the biasness. Do we have more questions?
Okay.
Did anyone comment
Yeah.
anything related to the problems? The one that I asked earlier? Okay. Myopic vision, I do not know things in detail. Oh, that's a good question. That is the reason Infosys did not accept the vision mission that they received. Even Indian Oil also has received too many vision mission statement. It's not about that whether my employee has a myopic or a broader vision. It is all about they at least have a vision. And when you make a vision, everyone needs to be involved, because they all have to follow the missions that come out of that vision statement. So if every organization will start seeing an employee as a smaller part, the entire network analysis will go wrong. That is the entire reason of conducting it. But also we have orientation through this. I mean, we never ask an employee to randomly send us a vision without giving them something as a background. We always have to have a literature in hand. We always have to induct an employee before we give it to them. So again, network, what kind of channel that we use to reach out to them. And in this case, the best channel is it should have a spill down, or it should have a effect from top down to the bottom, so that, or the head himself should or herself should reach out to the employees through a town hall meeting or an open house sessions. So again, that's again a strength of channel that we can recognize through communication audit. Do you think in a virtual office environment, Teams call can be used to visualize network? You mean to say, no, I didn't get the question. Call, you mean what? The channel or the content? Teams call can be
Teams
used
call.
to.
Actually, people they used to connect on Teams. I think it is in that regard.
Teams call can be used to visualize network. I probably do not understand the question. What exactly you want to say? You want to say that how a Teams call can be visualized on a network? Yes, that depends on the data that you may collect, the data set that you may form, that what kind of information are you looking for. Say, for example, I may have been calling people for the meeting. I may ask my employees that how many times you attend the entire meeting, the duration that you would attend, when do you feel is the right time for a meeting, or during the working hours. Distortion is one of the factors that you often face. So the level, you can use a Likert scale as 0, 1, 2. So this is how you can visualize network, by seeing that how teams call have been taken with the employees, how well they feel it's good to be connected with. This is how you can visualize. That depends on the kind of questions that you would like, you looking for the looking for as in answers. Yeah, at a city level, the best part about UCI net is that it is meant to analyze large data. Okay, not a smaller network. For that we have small world technique, and for that also we can use this network data, or for that we do not need any software. We can do it by looking at the content. Yes, for Delhi, I mean, you actually have to be very specific. For Delhi, you want to just study the kind of relationship exists between the people who are migrated. Okay, you could see Delhi is a state where people do not have their own specific culture. It is a state with multiple culture. So you can talk about ethnicities and what kind of relationships do they share. How often do they meet, when it's during Diwali or during the Shera, or do they celebrate Christmas or not? So you could see there's an inclusivity. So you can find data related to that, and you try to find the network between such people, between different ethnicities or different groups of people who have migrated, maybe from Bihar, from UP, or some people who come from south because they have a job requirement here likewise. So you can have data set accordingly and see what kind of network do they share. Like we have a common uh, uh, like the thought process that we have between the north and south doesn't don't do well. So what if we try to understand that how do northerners see the southerners, and accordingly likewise, that how do they mention them, and accordingly we have a matrix and we can analyze the network relationship within an organization. Or maybe Delhi as a whole, maybe we can see zone by zone, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, or maybe north, east, west zone, and try to understand. Or maybe through we have according to the MCDs that we have, or sorry, according to the constituencies that we have, we can also analyze data based on this. So we need to divide them into smaller zones or smaller constituents to analyze data. But the purpose has to be very clear. Without an objective, you can never collect data and analyze it. Because ultimately, whatever you want to analyze, it has to have a clarity in mind that what exactly are you trying to find out. Do we have more questions?
No, I guess no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you all can connect with me. I've given my email ID as well. I'm also there on LinkedIn. I'm still exploring a lot on network analysis and trying to develop some questionnaires based on that. So I'll be more than happy to answer your queries related to the area or related to any communication techniques that you have in mind. So thank you so much, Deepthi. I must say the audience were quite interactive. I'm so glad that they did ask a lot of questions, and I'm still looking for more. And but you can anyways reach out to me as I mentioned my email address. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so on behalf of WITS Delhi, I want to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Mona Gupta for her valuable contribution today. The insights shared by Dr. Mona have, I think, deeply resonated with our audience, sparking meaningful discussions and inspiring actions. We hope to have the opportunity to work with you again in the future, and I would like to invite you to share your insights and at our upcoming events. Once again, we extend our heartfelt thanks to Dr. Mona for her time, expertise, and engaging presentation. Thank you once again for joining us, Dr. Mona.
Pleasure is all mine. I really enjoyed the session. Probably a learning is always a two-way, and communication never works when it doesn't work two ways. So, the way you mentioned, I must say, I equally feel enlightened and very happy to be a part of this. Maybe to be associated with the organization, with the audience, and probably there's a lot more to learn. And I'll also be joining all the sessions to learn the way others are learning. Thank you so much for giving me
That's
this
really
opportunity.
great, Dr. Mona. Thank you so much once again for joining with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, welcome back, all. Uh, Now, I will take you to deep dive into machine learning techniques. So, before I start, I'll introduce myself. I'm Deepthi. I'm WiDS Delhi Ambassador. I'm working with NatWest Group in big data domain. My area of interest in technology includes data science for social good and blockchain for transparency. There's one announcement regarding the round two winners of Data Challenge. So we'll be announcing it by 3:35 to 3:40 in between. Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen. I hope my screen is visible. Can anybody confirm me whether my screen is visible or not? Seems I'm facing little difficulty. Just allow me a moment. Well, I hope my screen is visible now. Okay, so I'm going to start now. Yeah. So, machine learning. So, machine learning is a scientific discipline that explores the construction and study of algorithms that can learn from data. So, such algorithms operate by building a model based on inputs and using that to make predictions or decisions rather than following only explicitly programmed instructions. So here we can see that what exactly was there in traditional programming and how machine learning is going to be used. So in traditional programming, it was a manual process. That means it uses the input data and runs on computer to produce the output. Whereas in machine learning, we feed the input and output are fed to the algorithms to create a program. So what is machine learning? So as we can see here, a human stating that I can learn everything automatically from experiences. Can you learn? So the machine is saying, yes, I can also learn from past data with the help of machine learning. So human can learn everything from their experiences, whereas machine works based on instructions given by humans. So machine learning allows a machine to automatically learn from data and improve performance based on past experiences. Yeah. So to have a machine learning problem, we must identify the following aspects. The first one is the class of the task, followed by the measure of performance of to be improved, and last but the not least is the source of experience. So we are going to see few examples of learning problems. The first one is about checker learning problem. So checker, it's a type of game. We call it as an Chinese checker. So here, the task is to play the checker, and the performance measure is nothing but it is a percentage of game won against opponents. That what exactly is the percentage and how many times the opponent is going to win, followed by the training experience that the games played against itself. Our next example talks about the handwriting recognition learning problem, where the task is to recognize and classify handwritten words within an image. The performance can be measured as the percent of words correctly classified, and the training experience is a set of data of handwritten words with the given classifications. Now, why machine learning is important? What is the use of machine learning? So, machine learning, first of all, it solves the complex problems which are difficult for a human to solve, and also it is helpful in finding hidden patterns in images. It can be used in fraud detection. So these are the various use cases of machine learning. So human designers often produce machines that do not work as well as desired in the environment in which they are used. And also relationships and co-relationships can be hidden within the large amount of data. So machine learning or data mining may be able to find these relationships. So here we can see that when do we use machine learning? So we can use the machine learning in navigating on Mars, then in speech recognition, in personalized medicines, as well as in genomics, where the models are based on huge amount of data. Moving ahead, we'll see the applications of machine learning. So learning to recognize spoken words in fraud detection, to use credit cards, or learning to drive an autonomous vehicle, learning to classify new astronomical structures. So these are the few applications of machine learning. A part of this, we have medical diagnosis, then DNA sequences, spoken words, even handwritten letters, so on and so forth. So here comes our pattern recognition. So it is very hard to say what makes that two, right? So machine learning, if we apply on this, so a model can easily identify that and give you the result regarding the pattern. So let's see the state of the art applications of machine learning. Autonomous cars. So a self-driven car which doesn't need any human intervention is nothing but the autonomous cars. It drives by its own by sensing environment. And there are various technologies which have been used in autonomous cars. So let's quickly see that. What are all the technologies? So the first one is the LTM. LTM is nothing but the laser terrain mapping. So it allows for mapping of road surface in 3D. Then we have the path planning. Path planning, mostly Uber and other cab services, they are using it. They are just putting their starting point as well as their destination point to find the path, and also learning from human drivers as well as the adaptive vision. So these are the technologies which has been used in autonomous cars. Followed by we have the learning of object paths, where here you can see the face recognition pattern, right? And here they're identifying the car from this particular pattern. They're just finding out like the animals, the face recognition, so on and so forth. I I check if I have any question. Okay, I'll take up the question maybe later on. Yeah. So now moving to the types of learning. So there are basically four types of learnings. The first one is the supervised learning or the inductive learning. So in supervised learning, we already are aware of the output, right? So for a given input, we know what exactly is the output, what exactly we are expecting out of the model once we train it. Wherein In unsupervised learning, we don't know that what exactly is the output. So we give the training data without the desired output. Whereas in semi-supervised learning, for a given training data, there are few desired outputs. Last but not the least is the reinforcement learning, whereas the rewards from sequence of actions are there. Here you can see that machine learning is divided into two parts, the supervised learning as well as the unsupervised learning. Again, the supervised learning is classified into classification and regression, whereas the unsupervised learning has the clustering. So in supervised learning, what happens is, let's see, we have a fruit basket, right? There are so many fruits are kept in this particular basket. So in supervised learning, say if I want to train my model, right, for say apple. So we already know that if it is round in, if the fruit is round in shape, as well as the color is red, it could be, it is apple. So it is a labeled data set. We already have the information regarding the same. So we know that if this particular information we are passing to the model and we are getting the desired output, that's the apple. Now here comes the reinforcement learning. So a given sequence of states and actions with delayed rewards or an output policy. So policy is a mapping from states, actions that tells you that what to do in a given state. So in a particular state, what exactly has to be done? It defines that. For example, credit assignment problem, then game playing, robot in a maze, and balance a pole in your hand. Now let's see the design of a learning system, that how exactly we design our learning system. So designing a learning system. So these are nothing but the steps of designing the learning system. The first one is choose the training experience. First of all, we need to choose the training experience, and then we need to see that what exactly to be learned. That is nothing but our target function. Followed by, we need to see that how to represent the target function. Once we have chosen it, then we need to focus on the representation of the target function. Followed by, we need to also keep into consideration that what exactly is the learning algorithm to infer for that particular target function, what we have chosen. So here is our environment experience, which is divided into the learner and the performance element based on the training data, and this is based on the testing data. Now we'll see the designing a learning system example. So it talks about the problem description, followed by choosing the right training experience and the target function, and also it focuses on the representation for the target function, that how exactly we are going to represent our target function. And after representing the target function, we need to choose the approximation algorithm for that particular target function. And the final stage is our final design. So after this, we are going to see that what are all the issues in machine learning. So what algorithms are available for learning a concept? How well do they perform? And also how much training data is sufficient to learn a concept with high confidence? Not only this, we need to keep it in our mind regarding that how useful it is to use the prior knowledge, and also that there are some training examples more useful than others. Then we need to see what would be the best way for a system to represent its knowledge. Here we'll see what exactly is the training versus the testing. So what exactly we want? So we want a high accuracy on training data, no high accuracy on unseen new or test data. So why do we think that it is very tricky? Yeah, so it is very important to know what is training as well as what is testing. So training data, it features and it labels used to learn mapping F, which we have discussed earlier also regarding that mapping. And then the test data, it features used to make a prediction through which we make the prediction. It labels only used to see how well we have learned. And then next is our validation data, which held out to set off the training data. And it can use both features and labels to tune parameters of the model we are learning. So that is pretty about the training, test, and the validation data. Yeah. So if I talk about in a nutshell about machine learning, so we can see that there are three components of machine learning. So machine learning algorithm. The first one is the representations. The second one is the optimization, and the third one is the evaluation. Okay, so where does ML fit in? So here we can see that machine learning is using all these various uh, various computer science like physiology, applied maths, applications, and different stats all combined together is used to create our model. Like if I talk about physiology or psychology, so here biology of learning, inspiring parrotism, that is nothing but the example is a neural network. Then in computer science, we have the data structure, algorithm design. If I talk about statics, we have the estimation techniques, theoretical framework, for example, learning theory. In applications, we can see new challenges like ad placements. And if I talk about applied maths, we have the optimization, linear algebra. Yeah, so that's all from my side. If at all any question is there, I'll be happy to answer. Yeah, we have one question. What is transfer learning in machine learning? Okay, so if I talk about transfer learning, so transfer learning is it's a type of learning where we use a pre-trained model and training it for the new problem in the same area. Yeah, so that's the transfer learning. I hope I answered your question. Okay. Is there anything else from anyone? Any other question? Okay. If not, then yeah, thank you very much for listening to me. Yeah. And it's going to be 3:30, so probably we'll be announcing the result of data challenge round 2 by probably in 5 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, so Arman is going to join us soon for announcing the result for round two data challenge. Yeah, hi Arman.
Hey, Didi, how are you?
Yeah, good. So we have Arman here. So he is going to announce the result for round two. Over to you, Arman.
Hi. Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. So you have the list of like. So I'm going to announce a name. So please, if you know, say yes that you are present here. Okay. So first team that is going in is Shashwat Mukherjee and Shruti Datta, team 89P13. The next one is Kanchan Giri. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Okay. Third one is Siddharth Jain. And next is she has the same name as the founder, Pooja. And the last one, yes, is Kushal Sharma. So these are the five people like who are going to enter the round three.
Yeah, Arman, if possible, can you please drop it in the chat as well, the names,
Yeah, sure.
because if at
Yeah,
all
sure.
the people are not around, they can just see.
Yeah, sure. I sent you in the private chat. You can post it, or should I like do it myself?
Yeah, so I have received three names.
Oh, I think like it got, formatted. Let me do it one by one.
Sure.
And don't worry, we'll be sending the emails for the confirmation. So even if they are not here, so they'll know like they have passed it on.
Yeah, sure. So just allow me a minute so that I can just put all these names to the chat window. And heartiest congratulations to all the participants who have moved to round three. Arman, just allow me a minute, okay?
No worries.
Yeah, so I have shared all the names in the chat box. Yeah, and so all these winners whose names has been announced as well as has been put it into the chat box, they have to present at 5 o'clock. Yeah, and also we'll be sharing the link to join our live stream at 5. So please make sure you get ready with your presentation and present at 5 o'clock. Is there any question?
If there is any doubt, you can ask right now.
Yeah. If not, then we are going to close this session. And please make sure to join at 5 o'clock with your presentation. Okay, we have a question with Shashwat. We'll be getting the links at our mail. Yeah, sure. We'll be posting the link.
Yep.
Okay, if no question, then we are good to close. Yeah. Thank you, Arman, for
My pleasure.
joining us. Thank
My
you very
pleasure.
much
Thanks for
for your
inviting me.
time. Yeah.
Okay. Bye, people.
Uh,
Good luck.
yeah, just a moment, Arman. We have another question from Pashit Sharma. It is regarding till when we get the confirmation mail. You'll be
Yeah,
getting it. Yeah.
you'll be
Go ahead.
getting in like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, so you'll be receiving the mail within 5 to 10 minutes, along with the live stream link, which you are going to join at 5 o'clock. Yeah. So be prepared by then. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Aman, for joining us. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Good luck, people.